Hi, good morning. Hello. Hi. Tatlo lang. Oo, umuti nga tayo kasi baka, weekend po kasi eh. Baka nagpapahinga sila or nanonood ng Miss You. Pero okay lang. So, sadly, this is our last day na po, our last online peer mentoring session. And okay lang yan. I would like to thank everyone po who is here with me today. Thank you for spending your time with me. And I will now start today with our guidelines po muna. Okay, so our guidelines are as follows. So today is October 25. Our objective for today is to learn the fundamentals of database management or systems. And if we have extra time, I will teach about how to create a simple database using WAMP server and SQL. So our time frame, we have our introduction followed by the fundamentals of database management. And then again, if you have time, I can show how to make a database using SQL. So guidelines are as follows. Please be on time. We will start at exactly 10 a.m. Please observe proper etiquette. Be respectful of one another. Open your camera and unmute your audio when instructed. You may turn off your video if your connection is slow. And kindly chat or raise your hand if you have any questions. Ayan. Okay, so tulad po nung dati, please turn on your camera po. We will have our picture po muna. Ayan, okay. Wait lang. So, upon having my online peer mentoring sessions po prior, I have learned, ibahin ko naman po ngayon. So, I would like to ask before I start, what are your expectations for this session po before I start? Yan, database systems. You can chat po or unmute your mic and let us know what are your expectations for today's session. So guys, I will wait for you. I will read them if you are shy. Ayan, Sir Raffy says, how to use database. Okay, yes, that's correct. Okay, how about the others? Management, yes. Yan. What else po? How about Julieta and Sir Vincent? Okay pa ba kayo? Ayan, si RJ, sabi niya, papakita natin. Database, how to operate the CRUD based what I learned to you recently. Oh, okay. Thank you, RJ. Ayan. Yes, we will also tackle about CRUD operations today. Pero, just a glimpse lang. Or a short recap if you guys know about the CRUD operations already. How about Julieta? Okay ka pa ba dyan? Ayan, si Julieta. How to use database po in different language? Oh, more on like technical na siya. Okay, thank you, Julieta. Today is actually more of a lecture day kasi yung naging talk ko last Tuesday is more on the programming side. Pero tama naman. If you have time, I can also show how to use or create a database using SQL. Okay. So now we will start na po. Okay. Now, database systems. Like always, I would like to introduce myself first. I will be your mentor for today. I am Athena Ave, but you can call me Atcha. I am a third-year computer science student at St. Paul University in Manila. Our objectives for today, we have 6, starting with the key terms used in database management, followed by the ACID properties. Next, we have CRUD operators or operations, followed by database applications, the different kinds of database applications, Next is the cost and risk of database approach. And last is the components of the database environment. Okay. Starting with the key terms first. So, let's differentiate data and information. So, data is actually defined as raw facts. So, an example here is we have digits. We have 102520. So, that is considered data or a raw fact. However, the difference, if you will make it into an information is defined as a data that has been processed or already processed. For example, since comparing it to the data, so our raw data is 10250, it can be processed into an information on how you process it. So, an example is today's date, which is October 25, 2020. It can be, to make it a date, we use the forward slash to divide the digits and make it into a date. So that is how you considered or how you transform a data into an information. Another example we have here, it can also be, the data can also be a fee. So it can be 1,025 pesos and 20 cents. Or it can also be an ID number like 12-2511. So that is how you differentiate data from information. Next, another key term is obviously we have to know what database is all about or how it is defined. So it is a collection of data. It is further defined as describing the activities of one or more related organizations. It is used by the application systems of some given enterprise. So other definitions also include that database is also defined as transforming physical information into something digital. Especially nowadays, our information is now converted online. So our transactions, instead of using paper, it is now we now use digital, converted to digital. Okay, next. If I'm going too fast, please let me know so I can slow down. Okay, so nakakasunod pa po ba? Okay pa kayo? Hello? Okay pa? Just let me know. Okay, thank you, RJ. Okay, next. Okay, thank you. Okay, next, our next objective is about acid properties. So if this is your first time, don't worry. I will explain the acid properties. So this is actually an acronym. We will start with the letter A. Atomicity. So what is atomicity all about? It is defined as it ensures that when an update occurs to a database, either all or none gets recorded to the database, should a problem occur with either the hardware or the software. So an example of this, the atomicity property is money transfer. So we have GCash or MLaurier, etc. So an example is, let's visualize point A to point B. So when you do a money transfer, you withdraw, let's say point A, you will withdraw the money and then transfer it to point B, which you will transfer the money that you have withdrawn into another savings account, which is point B. So let's say, for example, atomicity will happen if, let's say, the money that you have withdrawn didn't went to point B, or it got interrupted or something like that. So it won't actually affect both points since transaction didn't happen. So I hope you understand it easier. So in this presentation slide, either all or none gets recorded. So that is an example that I can give based on what I have searched this morning. So an example is money transfer, or let's say sending a file. So, we know that if we will send a file, so let's say an interrupter is the internet, it won't go through. So, atomicity is present because it did not, the sending the information did not happen. So, I hope you guys understand it. Okay. Next is consistency. It guarantees that any changes to values in an instance are consistent with changes to other values in the same instance. So, if one information is recorded, if one information is updated or changed, everything that follows with that information is also affected. And we all know consistency in database is important, especially if we need to update everything. It has to be consistent. Let's say you want to update your number on your database. So it always has to be consistent because if you do not change your contact information, it will not be relevant. So, in short, parang walang silbi yung database kasi you're not consistent with updating your information. So, always in the property of consistency, change is always affected. However, it does not guarantee correctness. So how will I, to explain this further, it doesn't guarantee correctness because on the programmer side, for example, they changed, so let's stick to the example of a phone number. They changed it. However, the phone that they have inputted or updated is incorrect, or let's say they have inputted a different number. So, it does not guarantee when you do something consistently, it is considered correct. So, it can be a human error or a system error. So, we always have to consider that not everything that is consistent is guaranteed correct. I hope you're still okay. Okay, next is the third property. We have isolation. It is exclusive. So, of course, given the word isolate, isolation, exclusive, it allows users to be able to work as though he or she is the only user. Each set of changes must be isolated from those of the other users. So, it is exclusive. Only those who have the authority are only allowed to access this database. So, the transactions that people see are only visible to those who should see it. So, that is the isolation property. And last is letter D, durability. It is the ability of the system to recover committed transaction updates if either the system or the storage media fails. So, for example, here is a flight booking. So, in flight booking, So, in flight booking, let's say you have already booked your flight and let's say the system crashes. We can say that the database system of the flight, booking your flight is considered durable if and only if if your flight is not hindi siya naapektuhan, it's not affected. So it says here it will remain booked even if the system crashes. So that is how you consider your database durable, or how the durability property is shown. So okay, next is we will now define about the DBMS, or also known as Database Management System. It is a software designed to assist in maintaining and utilizing large collections of data. So like I have said, everything now is integrated online, from paper now converted to digital. So a database management is really convenient and efficient in maintaining and utilizing large collections of data, especially given the environmental factors that we have to consider, that if you still continue to keep your data on paper and you don't have any backup, what if there is what if it is affected by water or by fire? You don't have another alternative. That is why database management system is actually important, because instead you can still continue having a physical storage, but software's databases is really important as it maintains and utilizes large collections of data more efficiently and effectively. It is also defined as a program that acts as an agent between the physical database and its users. Sorry, there is a typo. Okay, so the DBMS or the database management tasks we have three. It defines a structure for data storage. It provides mechanisms for data manipulation, such as adding, editing, and deleting data. And last is to provide data security against unauthorized access. So, aside from organizing, maintaining, manipulating your data, it also provides as a security against unauthorized access. So, we have, from what we have learned, one of the ACID properties is isolation. So, isolation is connected in protecting your data from unauthorized access or users. Now we're going to identify the different examples of database management system. Okay. We have two. We have closed source and open source. So closed source is a proprietary software. To further make it simpler, closed source is only exclusive. Some of these sources can be accessed if you pay for it. It is only given to certain people. So we have an example of closed source software. In database management, we have MS SQL Server, MS Access, and Oracle. For open source, this is free. Anyone can access it. We have MySQL, MaxDB, and SQLite. If you guys have any examples for one of these examples, closed source and open source, feel free to chat it so people will know what kind of database management systems you use. Okay, so there. The next is the database approach. So how will you approach, or how will you start in creating your database? So the database approach emphasizes the integration and sharing of data throughout the organization. So it is a top-down approach. A top-down approach can actually be defined in many ways. It can either be approached in a way from those people who are authorized. So from the top, we have admin, staff, users. It can also be defined as a top-down design approach, how you design your database. So a top-down can start from, you can start your database with a general information first from the top, and then going down is the specific data that you have to also consider in creating your database. And the last point is fundamental reorientation. Reorientation is defined as changing a focus or direction. So when you create a database or you utilize your own database management, you should always reconsider there is a fundamental reorientation. So it is ever changing from while maintaining your database. Reorientation occurs or happens because you always have to consider updating the security of your system, updating the user interface, how you manipulate your data, how you change your data. So that is the 3 points in database approach. So now we're going to define what is a database application. So a database application, it is an application program, of course, that is used to perform a series of activities in behalf of a database user. So it performs the basic CRUD operations, and it can be classified into 5 categories. But before we move on to the categories, I will first define the basic CRUD operations. So if you guys have any idea, for those who have watched my presentation in SQL, so what does CRUD stand for? Ayan. What does CRUD stand for? CRUD. If you guys can remember. CRUD. Are you still there? Oh, yeah. Thank you, RJ. So, CRUD stands for create, read, or retrieve. U stands for update, and D for delete. Very good. Thank you, RJ. Okay. So, that is what CRUD stands for. So here, our third objective is CRUD operations. So starting with create. Create is to add new entries in a database. Wait, I will get my notes from that session. Okay. CRUD. You can either create, aside from the database, your own table and your field, column or row. So that is the definition of the create operation. Next, we have R, read. It is also defined as retrieve, search or view existing entries. Followed by update is to edit existing entries. So like I have said a while ago, we always have to consistently reorient or update our entries. And not everything that is consistent is guaranteed correct. So you always have to remember that. And last is delete or to deactivate existing entries or data. So our fourth objective is the categories of database applications. Okay. So what are the 5 categories of database applications? Starting with the first, we have personal database. So personal database, from the word personal, it is only a single user. The next point here is personal computers or desktops and PDAs. PDA stands for Personal Digital Assistant. It is only you who can access your database. The computers, you have the options, we have personal computers or desktops and PDAs. And the size or capacity is megabytes. And data cannot be easily shared because it is only you who is using or only you who has access to your personal database. Next, we have the second, we have workgroup database. It is composed of a small team of 25 persons, up to 25 persons. And each member has a desktop computer with local access network or LAN connection. They have a database server and each member has access. They also integrate in here for workgroup database. They ensure data security and the capacity of this database is from megabytes to gigabytes. So I hope you can tell the difference from personal to workgroup database. Now moving on to the third, we have department database. It is an organization that is composed of 25 to 100 persons. So this is a more larger group involved, and it is designed to support the various functions and activities. Okay, before I move on, I will first go back because I will also give you additional information. I forgot, I'm sorry. That in a personal database, these are the factors that we have to consider. So the first question in personal database, should the application be purchased or developed within the organization? So it is on you if you want your personal database to be developed on your own if you are capable, and you can also purchase an already a user-friendly database for you to manage. And the next question here, another factor to consider if you're interested in having a personal database is if the database application will be developed internally, should it be developed by the end user or a professional within the information security department? So it is not indicated here the integrity of your database since you're the only one who's using it. So it is not really nearly possible for it to be tampered with. However, you can also consider that it can be developed or maintained by a professional if you want your database to be more secured. And the last factor is, we have more. And the next factor is data requirements of the user and the database design. So you have to identify what are your data requirements. For example, you want to create your own database monitoring your you want to make your own inventory database, a personal inventory database that you're the only one who can see it, monitor it, manipulate it. So in order to create that, you have to identify what are your data requirements on your inventory database. So you can identify the items. You can also identify if you want it to have a code per product, per object. So that is an example. And how you will design your database. So another factor is the commercial database management product that will be used for the application. So I have already shown you, we have two. So products, we have closed source or open source. So like in the first factor, it depends on you if you want a personal or a purchased. If you want a developed, I would say, developed database, or if you want to purchase it from a closed source or an open source. And next is synchronization of the data in the personal database with data in the other database. So let's say a personal database can also be linked from another database. So you can also synchronize your data from another database and linking it or synchronizing it to your own or personal database. So that is actually possible. You can also consider that if you want to get information from another database. And last here is, this is the most important. I hope you guys are still listening and can comprehend what I'm saying. But the last factor to consider in a personal database is the person is responsible for the accuracy of data. So given that you are the only one who's using it, you are responsible for your own database. You are responsible if it depends on you if you want to share it to other people, but you also have to consider that you cannot trust anyone. So you have to consider if that person can be trusted with the information that you are safekeeping. So guys, are you there? So what have you, before I move on, what is the main point that you have learned about personal database? You guys can chat it. So what is the one thing that struck you the most about personal databases? Go guys. I'll wait. Don't worry. No answer is wrong. So, from what I have shown, what can you remember when it comes to personal database? Sana okay pa po kayo. Thank you, Julieta. Sabi ni Julieta, being a responsible for your own database. Tama po, di lahat pwede i-share sa ibang tao. Hehe. Thank you, Julieta. How about the others po? Okay pa po ba kayo dyan? Maaga pa naman. Ayan. Sabi ni Sir Raffy, you are the one who is accountable for your database. Ayan. Thank you, Sir Raffy. Ayan. Okay. So, ayan. Nandiyan pa pala kayo. Okay. Next na tayo. Next na po tayo. So now next is what do we have to consider naman when it comes to a what do we have to consider when it comes to a work group database? So it is a more larger team. Actually, it is still small because 25, pero it's not only you who has access. So what are the factors that we have to consider? So the first question here is how can the design of the database be optimized for a variety of group members' information requirements? So even though it is a work group database, they have different responsibilities or roles when it comes to managing the database. So how will you design it? How will the interface be? How will it be optimized for the members themselves in order to conveniently input the data or the information requirements? Next question here is how can the various members use the database concurrently without compromising the integrity of the database? So like I have said, they have different roles. So you have to optimize or minimize or control what part of the database that they have access. So to not compromise the integrity of the database. So let's say you're the admin. So obviously, if you are the admin of this database, if you are a database admin, you have access to almost all the information in the database. So if you are just a user, or if your role is not that much of a big role, so of course the database admin will lessen what you can see on the database or what you can access. So next question here is which database processing operations should be performed at a workstation and which should occur on the server. So in this question, you have to identify what kind of operations that these people or members can perform at a workstation and which should occur on the server or remotely controlled. So especially now, people who work they work remotely from their home. So what kind of operations can they do while working remotely from their homes? Ano lang yung na-access and nakakontrol. So that is the work group. So I have already told about the definition of department database. Now for the factors, we have only one question here, don't worry. So how can the database and its environment be designed to produce adequate performance? So database, environment, whether it may be a physical environment or in the digital environment. So how can it be adequate in terms of, especially we have to consider a larger member. So it is an organization. So given the large number of users and user transactions, so if you're going to have a department database, how are they going to continuously control it properly without any interruption, the fluidity? How are you going to divide the roles properly in order to have a better performance in controlling your database? So if you guys have any knowledge into this, feel free to share what you know. Okay? Okay, thank you. Next is enterprise database. So this is the fourth database. So an enterprise database, it is an organization-wide operation and decision making. So it is more than 100 persons, and it can the enterprise can also come from other groups or organizations, other partnerships that is involved in your enterprise, and it is designed to support information needs from many departments. There you also have to consider different departments, and We have here ERP and data warehouse. Ayan, sabi ni Sir Vincent. Tama ba? Ayan, data warehousing. Yan. Ito na nga po, yun na. This is the, you will not go into data warehousing then. Under enterprise database. And the capacity for enterprise database is from gigabytes to terabytes. So this is a larger na, more complex in terms of, compared to the last 3 databases, a more complex database. So, before I go to the factors, let's now define first what is ERP and data warehouse. Ayan. Ay, wala pa pala dito. Okay, so ERP, so I don't have a visual for this. So, please listen na lang. So, ERP means Enterprise Resource Planning. Ayan. ERP. Enterprise Resource Planning. So, ERP is defined, it is a business management system that integrates all functions of the enterprise, such as manufacturing, sales, finance, marketing, inventory, accounting, and human resource. So, like what is shown here on the presentation slide, it is designed to support information needs from many departments. So, it is not only your department alone, but with ERP, with Enterprise Resource Planning, this is actually a business management system solely made to consider or integrate all the function needs or the what is needed in different types of departments. So, an example is SAP. If you guys are familiar with SAP, that is an example of an enterprise resource planning. I hope you are okay. Next is data warehouse. Ayan na, sabi ni Sir Vincent, data warehousing. So, what is data warehouse? It is an integrated decision support database whose content is derived from various operational databases. So, this is actually... SAP yung ayuda ba yun? Sabi ni Sir Raffy. Hindi po. Funny yun funny. Okay, so data warehouse. Before I go to the technical definitions, you can visualize it. Kasi, diba, like I have said, we are now from physical information, from paperback, from paper-like data. We have a database to convert it digitally, so it is more convenient. So in data warehouse, imagine this. It is also like a physical warehouse na doon ay parang doon mo din na nagkakaroon ng foundation para mas organized yung database implementation mo, yung database management mo. So, what I have said, doon yung integrated decision support na it has also different operational databases. Operational databases in terms of including ERP or what we have known as Enterprise Resource Planning. So, they work hand in hand, ERP and data warehouse. And to further elaborate, it also provides users with the opportunity to work with historical data to identify patterns and trends and answers to strategic business questions. And is also used for reporting and analysis. To make it easier for us to understand them, I actually learned about database on our first year. So now I am a third year computer science student. So no, first year kami, when we were taught about this, the database management fundamentals, data warehouse, it is explained to us as, since I have said historical data. So the purpose of data warehouse to retrieve digitally information that can be obsolete o pwedeng mawala anytime. So that is why we have to always integrate the physical data that we have digitally. Kasi if you are aware of the news that are happening, for example, museums, some museums, diba, parang kailan ba yun, it is burned down. So you cannot, hindi mo na siya pwede balikan nang nawala na. Oh, may hugot. Pero, you cannot retrieve something na you don't have any duplicate or backup with. So, same goes with data warehousing. The purpose of data warehouse is to also safekeep o alagaan yung mga data, especially the historical data, because historical data is important for us to look back on. Historical data is also important for us to keep track on the present times. Looking back at this historical data, ito na pala yung improvements natin pagdating sa database. So, I hope you guys further understand what data warehouse is. Sir Vincent, what can you share po about data warehousing? If you have additional information po, I might forgot some explanations po. Data warehousing po. Sir Vincent? Nandiyan pa po ba si Sir Vincent? Hello? Move on na po ba ako? Sir Vincent? Hello? Sige, move on na ako. Ay, mag-11 na po pala. Okay. So, in terms of database, enterprise database, so these are now the factors that you have to consider. So, given it is an organization-wide operation, as you can see, it is more than 100 persons. So, the factors that you have to consider is how should the data be distributed. So, this is also like on the department. So, you also, since it is more larger, you also still have to consider yung how the data should be distributed, not only on the departments alone or the members, but on various locations in the corporate structure, especially that we have data warehousing. So, hindi lang yung organization nyo can also have access or authorization on your database. So, you have to consider the locations. So, an example of this, schools. Some schools have different branches. So, those branches have connected databases. So, how are you going to distribute from your school branch's database to the other branch or kunwari business? How are you going to distribute it without it getting tampered or without the information getting stolen or lost? Ganon. So, next question is, how can the organization develop and maintain standards concerning data names, definitions, formats, and related issues? So, meron tayong mga standards. So, paano, let's say, yung version niya, hindi parehas dito. So, paano mo mai-integrate na hindi na-alter or na-apektuhan yung data na sinisend mo dun sa other database? Formats, yun, related issues. So, how will you resolve it from your database to another database? Next question here is, what actions must be taken in order to successfully integrate numerous systems, including legacy data, from earlier systems that are desired for analysis? So, let's say you are going to use a source, either closed source or open source. So, what if the database that the other one is using is outdated and yours is updated? How are you going to integrate the additional features that you have into their database? So, I think most of you or some, first time nyo lang po ba marinig ang word na legacy data? Okay. Please chat, yes or no lang po. Sana na po, mag-reply na po kayo. Is it your first time hearing about legacy data? Yes or no? Please chat. Sabi ni Sir RJ, yes, first time niya daw. Sabi ni Julieta, yes. How about Sir Raffy and Sir Vincent? Is it your first time po hearing about legacy data? Legacy data. Ayan. Sabi ni Sir Raffy, yes or yes. First time. How about Sir Vincent? Sir Vincent, sana okay ka pa po. Okay. So, most of you guys, first time lang po marinig ang word na legacy data. So, don't worry. So, legacy data, it is actually defined as a data found in a system prior to the installation of a new system. So, like I have mentioned, we have data warehousing. We have historical data. We have data from physical or paper. It is from paper. So, legacy data is those examples are also considered a legacy data. So I will repeat, it is a data found in a system prior to the installation of a new system. So let's say it can be physical converted to digital, and if you're going to have a new system, the legacy data already exists. So legacy, pwede din, we can also define it as one of the pioneers, diba? It is also somewhat a synonym to legacy, a pioneer. So, ito po yung mga sinaunang data na naka-integrate na dun sa prior systems, sa prior database management systems. And, so legacy data then, please correct me if I'm wrong then, I'm using, my sources is from my professor's PowerPoint then. It is also stated here then na information is stored in an old or obsolete format. So like I have said na, we also have to include factors from other databases that the data is outdated, or the version itself is outdated, or the format or computer system is not that updated. So actually, what will happen if the information or if legacy data is not maintained, it will be difficult to access or process. So legacy data, it can be an old data, but legacy data can also be defined as a data that is already existing prior to the new systems. I hope you guys understand. Yun. Can you please let me know if you guys understand what legacy data means? You can also search more to further understand it. So for those people who have heard legacy data for the first time, have you understood it after I explained it? Yes or no? Please let me know. Sabi ni RJ, pakita ko, wait lang. I will show. Sabi ni RJ, wait, meaning to say, sa old version, inaano na siya sa new version po? Nasaan ako? Yes, parang ano din siya, based on from my understanding of legacy, it can be integrated na din sa new version ng installation ng system or sa DBMS. However, yun nga, like I have said, medyo, ayan, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, ayun din, ang problem din kasi, we have to consider kapag meron tayong legacy data dun sa system, ang problem dun is, ang tanong na maintain ba siya? Na-maintain ba siya in terms of format, in terms of, version, yung more on technical na yan pero, you also have to consider that if that data can be retrieved. Kasi some legacy data, like in the data warehouse, nakatambak lang. That's the term. It is stored, but you cannot access it. So, yeah, you always have to, if there is a way for the legacy data to be retrieved, to be used, kahit na legacy data na siya, or historical data. So, that is my understanding. So, ayun. Okay. Next. How about Julieta and Sir Raffy? Naintindihan niyo po ba yung meaning ng legacy data? Please let me know. Don't be shy din po to ask questions before we move on. Okay, thank you, Julieta. Sir Raffy. Hi, Sir Vincent. Yes, I searched. Sir Raffy, tama naman po ba yung explanation ko po? Or if may nahanap ka pong additional information, chat niyo po. Para the more, the merrier. Okay, tama po ba? Yes, tama naman. Okay, thank you po. Okay. Sir Vincent, hello po. Sir Vincent. Na-discuss na po namin yung data warehouse. Sana po naabutan niyo po. Pero kung hindi niyo po naabutan ng data warehouse, huwag po kayong mag-alala kasi i-upload ko po sa YouTube. Okay. Okay na po. Next na po. This is the last database application. This is the... Okay. Okay, thank you. Get well soon, John. Okay. Next is the last category. We have Internet, Intranet, and Extranet databases. So, ayan na nga. Ito na ang tanong. How are we going to differentiate the three? So, but before we compare the three kinds of databases, it is actually integrated into one. I will explain later. So, this kind of database, it uses web server and application server. It is composed of greater than 1,000 persons. And it uses internet technology and internet protocol. Okay. To make it easier for us to understand, now I will define each. So let's start with internet. We all know what internet is. It is a network for sending and sharing information. Internet. Okay? I hope okay siya. And so actually, intranet and extranet are dependent on internet. So why is that so? So internet is defined as a computer network that uses internet protocol technology or IP to securely share any part of an organization's information within that organization. It is also known as a private internet. So, as I have said, intranet and extranet are dependent on internet. So, intranet, it uses internet protocol technology. I have also researched additional information to further differentiate the three. So, I am using Difference.wiki. That is my reference for today. To further define, an intranet is unique to an organization or group of people who work together at a place. So, it is exclusive. So, itong internet nyo, ito sa atin lang to, diba? We all are aware of that. Let's say, if we go, let's say, SM. Ayan, that is an easier example. We go to SM. We have SM free Wi-Fi. Even though it's free, it is exclusive because some mall Wi-Fi access, it is not easily accessible, right? Because you have to insert something or you have to insert your number to gain access. And that is a way for intranet to occur because it is only limited to those people within that organization or in this case, within that mall. So, if you are inside the mall, you are one of those people who can have access. Other examples include for, let's say, in an institution or in a workplace, if you check your internet, there is a label na, kunwari, let's say, BDO Wi-Fi, sila lang, they're the only ones who have access. So, intranet, so you won't have difficulty. You can also, the easier, for this, to always remember, private internet. So, internet, intranet, inside, private internet. Sana, mas madali niyo po siya maintindihan. Okay, and last is extranet. So, ano po ba? What is the definition of extranet? So, this is the exact opposite. So, extranet is a computer network that allows control access from the outside for specific business or educational purposes. It is an extension of a company's intranet that is extended to users outside the company, usually with partners, vendors, and suppliers. So, extranet goes hand in hand. It can be it can be giving out access to the public. It can also be, from what I have mentioned, an extension of a company. So, it is also possible that you have your database, you have your connections internally using an intranet. This is your private network, and you can also have it externally. Yeah, so while having an intranet, you can also have an extranet where you can specifically share information that you can share to the public or for different organizations such as partners, vendors, and suppliers. Ayan. So, internet, intranet, and extranet they are connected together to easily differentiate. Internet is a network sharing information. So, intranet and extranet, they both use internet or internet protocol technology. Intranet is a personal internet. And extranet, it can have many functions. It can be to share it to the public alone, or it can also be used while you are using an intranet database or intranet network. Okay. Next. Okay. Here we're on our last objective. Oh, we're going to end early again today. Okay. It is our last day, so please don't be shy, and later, feel free to share and ask questions. Okay. So, sadly, this is our last objective for today. Our last objective is to know the costs and risk of database approach. Okay, what are the costs and risk of database approach? So, it is not always when you plan or when you want to make a database management system, you always have to know the pros and cons, because that is always the case. When you want to make something, whether it be not related to database, you always have to determine the pros and cons. Hindi, in Tagalog, hindi pwedeng sugod ka lang ng sugod. Kailangan alamin mo muna, another term is what are the advantages or disadvantages when it comes to investing on something or planning to make something. So in database, here are what you have to consider. So we have here 5. So we have new specialized personnel. Ayan. So if people from those who attended my information security, you already know this, that aside from you cannot trust people easily, you also have to consider those people who are new. You also have to determine who are the people that you can rely to, who have been in the organization longer compared to those who are new. Because obviously, those who are new, they don't have any idea what's going on or how to operate or manipulate your database. So, let's say they are, what is the term? They are not careful careful on how to utilize or use. So, they are more vulnerable, or there is a high risk for them to cost something that is not good for the organization. So, you always have to make sure you cannot easily put someone who is new to be the admin or to have authorized access for the database. So that is the risk. You have to consider the people. It is not always a system or a software that you have to consider. You also have to consider the people behind it. So, new specialized personnel. Next is installation and management cost and complexity. So, like I have said, we have closed source, open source. It is dependent on you if you want to invest or if you want to purchase your system, DBMS, management. So, it is not cheap. You always have to consider the cost and the management. So, It is not always the system. You also pay for the person. You always pay for the database administrator, people, the authorized people, and how complex it is. If you have a larger organization, it is more complex, given it has more specific procedures or operations that you have to consider. Next is conversion cost. Conversion cost can be anything. It can be about currency. Conversion cost can also include the people, from integrating those with experiences compared to non-conversion cost can also include the database itself. What if you want to upgrade into a new system? It will be, you have to know that it can be twice or thrice the price. Next is need for explicit backup and recovery. Ayan, we always have to remember to have backup and recovery. Aside from system crashes, it can also be because of environmental factors, because of flood, fire hazards. You have to consider that, or a person accidentally spilled something, or a person plans to destroy your database. So you always have to have a backup. So what if, another example for you guys to further understand this is, what if you are coming from a different place and you cannot go to your location? So that is why you always have to have a backup that you can access while you are from a far place, or while you are working remotely. Because anything can happen. Of course, we want to eliminate these things to happen, but we cannot tell if we can eliminate it. So that is why we need to consider to always have a backup of our database and to have a recovery. Next is organizational conflict. So communication is the key. Communication is important in order to know what are your objectives, how are we going to approach this, what kind of applications are we going to use. It goes hand in hand, because organizational conflict can occur if if the organization itself doesn't have a main objective, or they haven't really talked on what database, how the database is going to be, how complex it is, what kind of costs that they're going to consider. So you always have to consider organizational conflict, may it be the system, the software, the people, or the other factors. Okay. Oh, this is not yet the last. Ito na po talaga yung last. Number 6. Oh, this is my last. Oh, I'm going to tell the components of the database environment. Okay. Now we're going to start with, so we have a lot. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we have 9. So let's start with computer-aided software engineering, or CASE tools. So what is CASE, or computer-aided software engineering? CASE tools, these are the methods of developing information systems together with automated tools that can be used in software development processes. So this helps with managing information, and the tools in CASE, these are the class of software that automate many activities involved in the systems development lifecycle. This is a bit complex. I will just go with the definition. So CASE also includes Workbench, which is an integration of different tools that support various systems development lifecycle activities. So, in aside from making your database management system, CASE is also handy because it has the tools and functions that can easily help you utilize or manage your database. Okay. Next is repository. It is a centralized knowledge base of all data definitions, data relationships, screen, report formats, and other system components. It is a software repository is a storage location from which software packages may be retrieved and installed in a computer. From the word repository, this is more on the storage, where you can find the operations used, the properties, your database relationships, file formats, and other system components. So we have already defined what a DBMS is, what a database is. So now you guys know application programs. Next is user interface. So what is user interface? It is a set of commands and menus through which a user communicates with a program. So this is more on a front-end side, a user interface. So we have to visualize it that it is on the user's or the client's point of view. It is the space where interaction between humans and machines occur, and it is command-driven from a console or menu-driven GUI, which is the graphical user interface. So that is what a more technical definition of user interface. We all know it is more on the graphical side, client side, user side, and it can also be, it is the interaction between humans and machine. That is user interface. Now, let us differentiate database or let's differentiate database admins from data admins. So, I hope you guys are still listening. Data admins and database admins are different from each other. Their roles are different from each other. So, I am now talking about the authorized persons or the administrators involved about database management systems. So, first, defining a data administrator is someone or is a person to make the strategic and policy decisions regarding the data of the enterprise. So, from the definition, strategic and policy decisions. So, a difference with database administrator, it is the person who provides the necessary technical support for implementing those decisions. So, I hope you guys understood the difference between data administrator versus database. So, data admins, they are more, their focus is more on the strategic and policy decisions. And the database administrator is more on the technical support, support for the policy decisions of the data admins. I hope you guys understood. Okay. Next is system developers. So who are the system developers? What are their role? So system developers are programmers, software engineers, software developers, systems analysts, etc., who are responsible in designing and building application programs. So these people are both responsible for the software and hardware part of your system. So application programs, so I will now define application programs, are software created for a specific purpose. Okay. So that is why. So to further define application programs, it is a database application. So the database application is an application program because from what we have defined in application programs are more specific. And a database application is considered an application program because it is specifically used to access, retrieve information from, and modify the database itself. Okay, so the last is end users. So, end users, it can also easily define it. Those are the clients. Yeah, so we have it. End users can be defined in many ways. We have front end, back end. Front end, it can be the interface. If it is a more technical, can be a user interface. We have back end. These are the programmer side. End users can also be the clients, the users. So that is the definition of end users. Okay. So sadly, that ends my presentation. So please do let me know if you want me to run through with SQL. But I have already discussed SQL on my YouTube channel. If you want to see me demonstrate how to incorporate SQL or how to create a database using SQL, you can check that. So it is now 11:20. I hope you learned a lot. Hi guys! Kamusta na po kayo? So what are your learnings in today's session? You can unmute your mic. This is our last day. So don't be shy. Hello? Hi guys. I hope you're still there. Hello? Hi guys. Okay pa ba kayo? So what have you learned in today's session about database systems? Hello? Huwag na po kayong mahiya. Tayo-tayo lang to. Uy, pansinin niyo naman ako. Ayan, sabi ni RJ, there are 5 categories: personal database, workgroup, department, enterprise. Internet, actually wala talaga akong ideas sa ganito. Zero knowledge po ako. Ayan, thank you RJ. Pero, from what I have, may natutunan ka na ba about the internet, na meron palang internet database. Ayan. Okay, how about the others? Yes po. Tapos sa internet yan at extranet. Ayan. Thank you. How about Sir Raffy, Julieta, and Sir Vincent? Sir Raffy, knowing the best database setup depends sa situation or of organization or company. Yan. Thank you, Sir Raffy. Yes, the database setup depends po talaga sa organization or company or kliyente, ganon. Thank you, Sir Raffy. I hope you learned a lot. Julieta, Sir Vincent, nandiyan pa po ba kayo? And wag po kayo mahiya if may gusto po kayo i-share. If you want to learn more po, you can check my video about SQL. Today po kasi is more on a lecture type. It is focused on the different systems and how you manage your database. So, dun po sa isa kong video, it is making a database using SQL. And if you want po to know if SQL is a programming language, check nyo din po. Medyo, yun, sa comment section, nagkaroon ng mini debate kung ang SQL ay programming language. Okay, Julieta and Sir Vincent. May gusto po ba kayong share or itanong? Sabi ni RJ, may I ask po kung ano po pa purpose ng foreign key? Okay, thank you for that question, RJ. So, from what I have learned for the past 3 years, wow, as a CS student, the purpose of foreign key in a database is actually, in terms of database relationships din siya, is to integrate or connect a data or commonly kasi primary key ang ginagamit na foreign key. So, the foreign key, the purpose of the foreign key is to get a data, or let's say primary key from a table 1, incorporating it in table 2. So, in order to get data from a different table, we use foreign key to connect those. So, there are other ways then to connect information. We have table join then, but the foreign key is to connect it. How will I easily explain this? Let's say I want to uh, get a name of a person who rented this movie. So let's say a renting database management system. So I want to get the names of people who rented this movie. So obviously we have a different table for customer and we have a different table for the movies that they are renting. So in order to get the name of that person, we use the foreign key to to connect if this person. So the primary key, it has identifiers like, let's say, customer 001. And if we use the foreign key, we are able to get the customer 001, what kind of movie customer 001 rented. So that is why we use foreign key in order to get the information connected to this table. So yun nga, from what my example is we use foreign key. So let's say movie renting place, we are able to get the information who are the customers, who are their names that rented this specific movie. So that is the purpose of a foreign key. Thank you. I hope you understood it. Yeah. So if you want to learn more, then if there for sure there are more definitions or explanations, then you can search other purpose than a foreign key. But that is what I can tell you. It connects information from a different table to another table. From the word foreign. You're welcome. Ayan, gets na daw ni RJ. Sir Raffy, Julieta, Sir Vincent. Do you guys want to share something? Last day na po natin. I will edit this po after our session and upload it. I will wait for the approval of our chairperson then. You can look back at this if you guys missed some parts. How about the others? Okay po ba? Again po, thank you po for spending your time with me today. I know it is a weekend. It is a Sunday. Ayun po, happy weekend. May pasok na po ulit bukas. You're welcome. Julieta, Sir Vincent. Okay pa po kayo? Wala na po bang sharing? It is mag-11:30 na. Should we? Ayan. Sabi ni Julieta, pakita natin. Natutunan ko din po about sa different components of database. Thank you po. You're welcome, Julieta.